If there's something that you want, find a way to create value for other people so that they'll pay for it and you'll help them and transform their lives. And then the money they give you, you get to have the thing that you want.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Everything is Influence podcast, where on every episode, we dig into this concept of what is influence, and we explore the 4 levels of influence. Ultimately, how we influence ourselves, our values, our discipline, how we see the world, how we become who we become, what's our guiding light, how do we take that out to the world, transfer that to other people in sales or process, our kids, the people around us. And then level 3, influence at scale, where we influence groups of people through online, through media, through our own voice. And then at the highest level of influence, legendary influence, level 4 is where we're going to begin today with my guest, Jesse Elder. And level 4 influence, just to remind all of you, is where we're able to remove ourselves and have influence through people and process, distilling our values into those around us to do something that lasts, create something that lasts even after we're gone, not meaning dead, but when we're not there babysitting. But even after we are not in the presence or proximity of the people we've influenced, the change has been lasting. And so it's with great pleasure today, I'm actually introducing you to my first high ticket coach. I saw this guy on a friend's little webinar that he did. And at the end of it, I was like, I don't know what he is selling, but I am buying it. It was a month before I didn't even realize, like, what do I even get with this? I was so enrolled. And I went to Jesse's house, and it was one of the most magical experiences of my life. It was the last day of this video salmon challenge that you had done. And it was this gratitude piece, and you were so appreciative, and there was tears down your face of gratitude and the hearts and the likes. And I started crying. I'm sitting there. I have a picture of you that I screenshotted, and I have a picture of you on my phone still that I look at sometimes, and you're just laughing and tears down your face. And it was just such a beautiful moment for me. And coaching has become kind of this bastardized, grab and gain game of get and show my Lamborghini, and just how you consistently show up for the biggest names in the industry has been huge. So without any further ado, sorry for that moment, everybody, but Jesse Elder, how are you doing, sir?
Better by the second, man. Happy to see you dive into this. We've had some great times. I remember that particular visit. Remember I had that old Defender, that like red, right-hand drive, like a British fire truck vehicle.
Yeah.
And we're driving through the hills in Austin, like bouncing around and blasting music. And we were like kids, man. It was so fun.
Amazing. Yeah, there's as part of the ethical cult building cult. And I was still working for Tony, and I was doing, like, I had my first pseudo high ticket program, pretty low ticket. I had a couple high ticket clients, but selling fitness stuff. And you were the first one. You're like, why don't you do this sales thing? You're pretty good at the sales thing. Aren't you the top sales guy for Tony? You could probably make a little, do the sales training thing. And I was like, huh. And so that was a week later, you told me what to do and what to say. And I made a post on social media, and I think I charged $3,000 or $6,000 for sales coaching. And I, more than paid for my investment, like in a day. And it's returned millions of times over at this point, literally. And so, I kind of want to, the way that we start off these episodes, just to give context for everybody that doesn't know you, who are you? Because I even saw Russell Brunson commented on one of your Facebook posts the other day. You don't really do marketing funnels or any of the typical stuff, but when you started doing Mind Vitamins, these little videos, they would get like tens of thousands of shares, millions of views instantly, where most people can't even buy that kind of coverage. There was something about you. I remember the first time I saw your video that was just so raw, so different, so magnetic. So let us know, like, what do you do in the world now? And we're going to kind of reverse engineer how you got there. So what do you do that's of influence in the world today? Like, what are you up to?
I'm feeling a lot of emotion right now, man, because that really took me back to some beautiful times, and just thinking about how much of that is even more relevant today. At the time of this recording, we're in March 2022, and it's exactly 2 years since the world started to get interesting, and all of these basic principles are even more important now than ever before. And before I get into some of the mechanics of it, I'll say that I think anybody who's not using genuine, authentic, like just real, like zero F's given, like this is who I am, take it or leave it. Anybody who's not truly coming from that place is not going to have a future, because you're basically looking at competing with AI, and you're looking at artificial intelligence writing copy better than a lot of copywriters.
Right.
But that's and no disrespect to the copywriters, happily will disrespect AI all day long because it doesn't have a soul. I'm fine with that. But the idea of just hacking human psychology, you'll make money, you'll make sales, but you won't develop family. You won't develop true tribe, true community, people that would, take a bullet for you, people that would give you the shirt off their back, people that would look to you immediately as their most trusted source of wisdom. That doesn't happen through psychological hacks. It doesn't happen through outside in marketing and sales methodologies. So it's a very accidental thing. I in 2013, I had sold my martial arts schools. I had a very successful chain of schools, great partners, mentors, everything. But I sold it all. And then a couple months later, found myself getting separated and divorced. I was married for 10 years. And so it was like a lifectomy. I found myself, 39 years old with like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I've never felt that, but by society standards, I had nothing. It's like the sale of the business went to pay for the divorce. I was really starting over again, but it was actually exciting. I chose to see it as just an opportunity to reinvent myself according to my highest values and principles. So I just began to aggressively split test paradigms. It's like, what is it that's in my heart to do? One day I just made a video and posted it, and I had like 300 friends on Facebook. That video got more shares than I had friends. And to this day, I have people still comment about that video. It's called 70 Seconds to Self-Mastery. And the theme of everything that I do and everything that I attempt to do is really just to share what I've found useful, either intellectually, physically, relationally, financially, creatively, spiritually. If there's anything that I've found useful, I'll share it as a description of what I'm doing or what my clients have done, not as a prescription, which is a very presumptive, egoic thing to do, to say that I don't know who you are, but here's what you should do. It's like, how does that make any sense? But people buy it because people are looking for guidance and looking for solutions. So at its heart, it really comes down to what do you as a creator, the person watching and listening to this, what do you in your heart of hearts feel most inspired to talk about? And that's so hard for a lot of marketers and many salespeople to understand or to embrace, because a lot of times they haven't figured yet how to convert something that they're truly passionate about into something that's useful enough for other people that they'll get paid for it. And so a lot of people have gotten sort of burned and sort of disenfranchised or disenchanted by even thinking about being passionate and leading with their joy. But that's all I've ever been able to do. Believe me, I've tried to like cobble together an offer based on psychological triggers, and the universe kicks my ass every time. Like nobody buys. It's like crickets. And then there's other times that I did a video one time on tacos and how much I love tacos, and ended up having like 300 people join a webinar literally titled "How to Get More Tacos into Your Life." And we made $13,000 in sales off just, an idea, but tacos became synonymous with whatever you want in your life. People are looking for ways to have fun, and they're looking for unmistakable levels of competence. And so that would be, I think, a good launching point for the rest of this dialogue. What do you have fun doing, because fun is a magnet for attention. People enjoy being around others who are enjoying themselves. But then there must be relentless, ruthless, loving, but ruthless level of competence where you just have a confidence that anybody that uses my stuff is going to get a great result. Yeah. And so combining those two forces, the power of joy and fun, and I would do this for free. I would pay to do this because I love it so much. Mm-hmm. And the tactical, practical, step-by-step, scientifically based, do this, do X, get Y, every single time. The more you can combine those, the more fun you're going to have, the more money you're going to
make. Yeah, it's interesting. Even as I ask you questions, you know, a lot of people have these canned responses, and you're just like, oh, I'm just going to take a moment to appreciate that and feel, whether it's a podcast interview or a speech or these 30-second videos, most people don't give themselves a permission to connect with their own feelings and speak from that place. They're kind of like reading off words on a teleprompter or trying to get something, whether it likes or, downloads or something. And it's an interesting, because two people can say the same words and it can feel very different.
Right.
And, in sales, all of that, and so right now you're in Time Piercer Studios. Mm-hmm. You've created a physical location, not an office. What would you describe this place that you have now?
You know what? This
where you're at.
Yeah, this popped in. I was meditating last July, and when I do this very particular meditation, it literally accesses what I call the memories of your future self. So it's like, you and I here today, we can think back to last Thursday, or we can think back to being 20 years old, and we can remember that. Well, why can't we remember the future? Why can't you catch a memory from your future self? We call it imagination, but we've all had deja vu. We've all had this experience of familiarity. So I've trained myself, trained my brain, and trained a lot of other people how to remember the future. And so I was doing this meditation back in July, and this vision just popped in, and I saw a space, and it was this sort of clubhouse, laboratory, sanctuary, dojo vibe. And I went out the next day on my motorcycle, and literally I live at the W Hotel in Austin, and I pull out of the hotel parking lot, and it was like dowsing for water. It's like, okay, where is it? I know it's around here somewhere. So I just drove around town and just followed my intuition. It was like, no, not there. Found myself here on the east side, and found this place. This is like 2,400 square feet. It's a little bit of a mess right now, but this is this 2,400 square foot place that was already perfectly built out. We put a little music studio in there, and here we have the CTFO lounge, stands for chill the fuck out. Mm-hmm. And this is just a scene of epic conversations. We got Whole Foods right across the street, downtown Austin, right there, like prime location. Jiu-jitsu mats and endo boards, and this just was an idea, and it was like, I didn't budget for it. I don't budget for anything. I know that if I get an idea that is supposed to be brought to life, that I don't, and you don't, I don't think anybody ever gets truly an inspiration that doesn't come with batteries included. True inspiration always comes with the power to make it come true. We just don't. And I heard this from Dan Kennedy years ago. You should never pay for anything. Like, if there's something that you want, find a way to create value for other people so that they'll pay for it, and you'll help them and transform their lives. And then the money they give you, you get to have the thing that you want. And so I've always operated in this way. And so I wasn't, setting out July of last year to add another, 120,000 onto my expenses, but it was like, this has to be done. So found this spot, signed a lease, got the keys 2 days later, and had my first client come in like about a week after that.
Wow, that's amazing. So you've got this, you have so many different programs: sales, wealth, women, war, all of it. Kind of
44 different programs.
44 different programs, and I've gone through quite a few of them. Amazing. So kind of, we're going to reverse engineer this process now. So who is Jesse Elder? How did you become this? Because I know you're homeschooled. Kind of walk us through, because you have just such a different, this action philosopher, different way of looking at the world. And it always, for me and for so many leaders, it sheds such a unique perspective on problems, challenges, value, worth, all of it. Kind of how did you develop it? Kind of walk us through your upcoming.
I'll preface this by saying I think each of us is born in a very pure state. Anybody who's ever had a child or held a baby, you just see this freshness, this pure bundle of light and love straight from God. It's like that's how we arrive. And then very quickly we learn to sort of fit in. It's a survival mechanism. We learn to fit in. We learn to camouflage. Most people, if they have a traditional educational experience, they learn to operate according to someone else's directions. And I am more appreciative by the day. My parents are in their final chapter of life, and so I'm increasingly connected to them. But they made a choice when I was born to stay out of my way and to let me have my own experiences. And one of those choices was to not put me in school, which is ironic because my father's a school teacher. And he's like, yeah, we're not gonna do that. So my childhood was extremely self-directed. A lot of love, a lot of just connection and a healthy family life. But in terms of what I was supposed to put my attention on, control of my time, largely absent. And so that led to hours and hours a day of just, what do I feel like doing? And sometimes it was taking the bus to the library downtown San Antonio and checking out all the books on snakes or medieval warfare or whatever I was into. And so it was an experience of getting to feel for what I was interested in without any not that I wasn't encouraged, but I wasn't pushed. I wasn't pushed like you have to do this, nor was I suppressed. So I never heard you have to do this, and I rarely heard you can't do that. It was like, hey, if you want to do it, we're sure you'll figure it out. So that led to an interest in martial arts. That led to me, helping out in classes. By the time I was 15, by the time I was 17 years old, I told my parents this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so I've never had a job other than I was a bouncer for 6 months. But everything else that I've done has been a result of my own interest, training, developing a level of skill and competence, and other people just asking me, hey, how'd you get good at this thing? And that's when I began to realize that I was a teacher. And that pattern has just continued nonstop, and I don't see any reason for it to stop. As I get interested in something, I'll tend to obsess over it. Yeah. I've got all sorts of my own, weird little, ways of learning and assimilating rapidly. And then it inevitably ends up becoming tools and strategies and concepts that can help close the gap for people. And that's why there's been so many offers, because it's just an inevitable result of me solving problems in my own life.
Yeah. And early on, you started these karate studios, dojos, and didn't sell that well. And then something shifted for you.
Yeah.
What kind of shifted in that place? Because, it's interesting. Folks listen to this. It's a lot of salespeople, obviously. And so we're like, what is the script? What is the objection handler? And just, there's no script here. And your way of this carefrontation that we'll dig into, after this. But your way of selling, obviously, you have had a lot of success. And, in the coaching world, you said just a few years ago, it wasn't too many years ago, you started and it blew up with the highest level clients. So how kind of, walk us through your sales journey and how you got started and what shifted with the studios.
Sure. So, and I really appreciate your you doing your homework. I mean, you and I go way back, and so it's cool. I just really, really appreciate that. I opened my school when I was 23 years old, and I had the classic misconception that if you build it, they will come, and if you love it, people will pay you for it, and all this stuff. So I'm 23. I opened up. I won a bunch of tournaments and all these like no holds barred fights, and I love to teach, and I was really good at teaching. And I thought that would be enough. And a couple months go by, and my classes are just nobody's coming. Mm-hmm. And I realized I can't do this by myself. Like I have fight trainers, and I have coaches who help me become better in teaching. I need to find somebody who can mentor me in this sales thing, because I was watching other people succeed, and quite frankly, I was like, if that guy can make money. Mm-hmm. What's wrong with me? How come I can't? If that turkey, lovingly, but that turkey can make money, what's wrong with me? And I realized that there's certain messages that serve people better than others, and I became more conscious of my communication, and I became aware that when somebody called the school, that probably just saying, "So, do you want to sign up or not?" was probably not the optimal thing for me to say. Mm-hmm. So I just began testing, and I got a mentor, and I got coaching, and I got to see, try this instead of that. But it really hit me one day when I realized that the teaching that I was doing, teaching my classes, I had mistakenly, and I see a lot of coaches, a lot of consultants make this mistake. I thought that teaching, coaching, was the business. Like I thought that that's the business. And all of a sudden I just got it. That's not the business. That's the reward for doing business. That's the job. The job is the thing that lights you up. It's the thing you're passionate about. But the actual business is only two things. In the martial arts business, it's setting appointments to give somebody an introductory class so they can have this experience, and then doing that introductory class, scheduling it and doing it, doing the class, seeing this person light up, watching their face change as they realize what's possible, have a visceral, embodied experience of what life can be like as a result of this training, and then just ask them, hey, how was that? And if you want to continue, here's what it looks like. Mm-hmm. And I really got it. 24, 25 years old, I really understood that is what I get paid for. Scheduling those conversations or those classes and having those classes. Everything else is the job, and everything else can be fun and rewarding. But when I work with coaches and consultants now on their sales and on their marketing, we just kind of lovingly beat it into them. It's like you only get paid when you get paid. And so you don't get paid for coaching. You get paid for someone's choice to change their life by inviting you in as a trusted resource. That's what you get paid for, is being invited into their life. And that has very little to do with your competence as a coach or a consultant or an entrepreneur. You don't get paid for your competence. You get paid for your communication. And that's when I really got it. I was 25 years old, got it, and went on to build a very successful organization. We're making millions of dollars a year, training our staff in these very simple, but very powerful money-making techniques. I mean, if you take a 17-year-old who lives at home and goes to high school, and you have them collecting $14,000 memberships paid in full, like you got to overcome a lot of wealth blocks. You got to overcome a lot of self-sabotage for the 17-year-old who has never really made money before, and that's what developed. And then as a result of that, our organization was successful. And then when I began coaching, it was an interesting year in 2013, figuring it all out. I had a client, Garrett White was one of my very first clients, and I was helping him to build Wake Up Warrior. And then I heard about this guy, Kevin Nations, and I know, he had helped Garrett a little bit. So I reached out to Kevin and we had a chat and I gave him, some money. And I was like, dude, I just want to be a student. I'm here, delivering all the time. I just need to be in class. So Kevin has just some tremendous distinctions. It reinforced a lot of what I innately understood from the martial arts. And the bottom line is I just was ravenous as a student. I don't think that ego is the place. I don't think ego has a place in learning. I think humility does. And if you're going to have ego in learning, it should be in, I'm going to be the fastest learner here. I'm going to learn the most, not maybe against anybody like competitive, but I am going to devour this material. I am going to highlight it and underline it and circle it and read it and close my eyes and repeat it and read it out loud and listen to the recording. And I'm going to do that while I'm running and I'm going to meditate. I'm going to devour this material until it's integrated. And then I can add my own spins and get creative. So I've just always been like that with learning something because of martial arts. I've never been able to just sit back and watch and listen and learn. My immediate thought is, how do I train on this? And how do I put repetition and intensity into this? How do I disguise the modalities of learning so I can engage all of my senses? And that's what I teach people to do now. So when people go through these sales trainings, they end up developing this as naturally as a second language, but it's them. It's not a script. It's their empathy for the prospect, their empathy for the client, and a total detachment from whether the person gives you money or not, which takes some time to develop for people. But when you have truly a detachment and you don't care whether they pay you or not, you just care about whether they're going to make a choice to change their life. People can sense that. They can sense if you care more about the money than you do them. And I think that's something that the industry could use more of.
Yeah. It's like a lot of these people, we're in an information business, but information isn't what changes people's lives. It's an experience, and people get an experience of how you actually are, especially in times of challenge and when there's money on the line. Sometimes people feel challenged, and it's that holding people to a higher standard for their reasons and connecting. I love what this word, carefrontation. If you could explain, what does that mean? You mentioned it before the call.
Yeah. I'll give you a really simple, consistent example that I've seen help a lot of people. When I do a training, and as you know, I do a lot of free trainings for all these things that I'm constantly up to. And on the training, I'll be explicit as to what we're going to accomplish, who this is for and who it's not for. And I'll invite people to share in the chat or in the comments, what is it that they are investing their time here for? What is it that you're here for? And you'll see comments come up and people say things like, well, I just love your material, or, I'm always looking to learn. And those are very fluffy comments. Those don't actually mean anything. And I don't mean any disrespect to the people that are sharing. It's that they don't realize how stuck in la-la land they are and how out of touch with their actual reality. What are you actually here for? So when I will have a carefrontation at the very beginning of the training, I'll say, I'm reading these comments and I appreciate your intent. I appreciate that you're sharing this because that's what you think you want. With all due respect and truly with love in my heart for why you're here, every one of these comments is bullshit. Because learning more isn't going to do squat for you. In fact, it's just going to reinforce the negative pattern of consumption without implementation. And so I can't be an accomplice to that. And so I'm going to ask you again, what is the thing that you're here to change? And that invitation to clarity is hard for people because they're not used to telling themselves the truth, honestly. It's like, oh, I want to learn about health and fitness. No, you don't. You want to be able to make love to your partner with the lights on. That's what you actually want. It's like there's an end picture here. I want to learn more about parenting. That's a means to an end. How about, having your child not want to be on iPad and want to go to work with you and see how you work? There's a different outcome. So that carefrontation is really just an invitation to clarity. And as someone who's selling anything, one of two things is going to happen. The prospect will either enroll you in their level of confusion, or you can invite them to your level of clarity. One of those is going to happen. And so knowing fully your role is to create clarity about the outcome, clarity about the purpose, clarity about the strategy, clarity about the next step. That's our job. And if again, I'm not to demean anybody, we all, get stuck sometimes. But if the prospect knew how to do all of that, they wouldn't be on your sales call. They wouldn't be on your webinar. They wouldn't be coming to you. So they need help in answering better questions. And that's the basis of how I approach things.
And so for yourself, you're so creative, and you mentioned 44 programs. That's brilliant, by the way. The way that you've experienced, Kevin, I've gone through a lot of Kevin Nation's stuff. He's profound. His distinctions, really amazing. You've become so creative. Obviously, you meditate, and that's a big part. This pre-paving, prime light, all of this, and this is it's good stuff. These ideas, and I think most of us are in such massive consumption because there's always something new, all the ads, all of that. Most people are wanting to be more creative, to create something new, and I believe that we've all got that inside of them. What do you think allows you to do that so consistently? Even myself, I'm there sometimes, and I'm just like, it's coming through me, sometimes not. And I just bog down so many tasks and stuff and all of that. How do you find that center?
Yeah. I love this. I love this whole topic, man. Creativity it's what our minds and our brains and our hearts do. Creativity is the natural byproduct of our inner terrain. And so, the idea of the romanticized artist who just like, I just see this vision and let me paint this vision. Absolutely. We all have access to that. Nikola Tesla was famous for just going into these hypnagogic trances and seeing his machinery and then coming out of the trance and making it, drawing it. We all have access to some very interesting data layers. But what enhances that is something I actually heard Tony say years ago, that learning is the creation of a relationship between the known and the unknown. And the reality is most people have a very anemic set of unknowns. Most people can't tell you the last time they did something interesting, dangerous, exciting for the first time. They can't tell you when they did something like that for the first time. We're in such a consumptive society, and so much of our consumption is disembodied, meaning we consume through screens, we consume through virtual reality, we consume through gaming, or all these contrived things. And so the key to unlocking creativity and tapping into that natural creative force is to fill your senses, fill your mind, your body with as many different types of things as you can. And so, it's been a big trend, cool, in the last couple of years, maybe not the last 2 years, but prior to that, there's been a big trend for a lot of masterminds and workshops and stuff to have an experiential component. So people will go surfing, or they'll have a hiking mastermind, or they'll go to Peru and do ayahuasca. There's all these experiential type things. But I think the real key is not just experience, it's learning skills. Because when you learn a skill, your brain is connecting the learning of that skill to every other skill that you know how to do. And so you're activating, like if you learn to play a song on piano and you've never played piano before, and you're learning how to do it, you're in the process of moving from uncertainty to certainty. And that in itself is the master skill. It's just that most people don't put themselves intentionally in places of uncertainty. They wait until life does it for them. And now they're uncertain. They don't know what to do. Their back's against the wall. And then lo and behold, they become creative. But that's a very stressful way to live life. You can engineer consciously, you can architect creativity into your life if you will only put large numbers of new experiences. When's the last time you ate a weird new food? When's the last time you listened to music that is like the last thing you've ever listened to? When's the last time you ate with your left hand instead of your right hand? When's the last time you did a float tank? When's the last time you went for a walk? And while you're on the walk backwards. It changes your whole perspective because now reality is being created from you instead of, coming into you. When's the last time you microdosed LSD or whatever? It's like most people are so... we have become a society of consumers and spectators. Yeah. And what that has then created is a society of very, very dumbed down, weak rule followers. And so you can't be courageous and follow what you're told without questioning at the same time. And courage is the natural byproduct of intentionally putting yourself into situations that are uncertain on purpose so that you develop the level up of confidence, courage, clarity, creativity. That becomes the natural byproduct of putting yourself in lots of unfamiliar situations. I think that's why the future really belongs to those who have chosen to cultivate their own wisdom intentionally instead of waiting for somebody else to sell it to them or to buy a packaged experience with all the rest of the tourists. Like, get lost. If you're gonna go to Punta Cana and Dominican Republic, don't go on the tour. Get lost. Go hang out with the natives. Go drink a beer with the locals. You'll learn more about yourself and about the country and about what's really going on than any glossy packaged stuff. And that's the key. That was the rant. But in a nutshell, to be a better creator, you have to put yourself in more unfamiliar, unknown situations.
You mentioned that when you lost the karate studios and got a divorce, you were like, you had nothing, but you were still fine. You were like, by society standards, I had nothing, but I was still fine because you've been training this way for a long time, living your life. And for everybody listening, I've sat next to Jesse as he was doing these lives and been in Facebook groups that he created, just, spur of the moment. He was traveling, maybe needed to put out a program or just got inspired. And there's thousands of comments. I mean, the thing is just going crazy. And so we live in this attention economy. Everybody's, competing for our attention, email, everything in our phone, all these new apps, new, the news, which is not news, and just all these things competing, but people are starving for wisdom and authenticity. And, hopefully what you've gotten from this is that, I want to prioritize this in everybody's mind with the experience of what Jesse's giving us to know that, it's not just your script or reading these things. It's like, if you really want to be a leader, people are magnetized towards a message of authenticity, and it's got to come within. Even hearing, you, Jesse, as you talk, you're embodied. I won't mention the name, but I was looking at, there was somebody that does something similar to what I do, speaking from stage, and she's like a sales coach. And I asked the other people that had gone through a program, and I was like, what was your experience? And they were just like, well, she's this, that. I said, well, what about this? They're like, well, yeah, she's not very embodied. I was like, that's the word. Like, to be an embodied messenger means you need to be connected to your body where your feelings are. And I think most people, like talking heads, just trying to get it right. It's all, intellect based, not embodied, not this full expression of who they are, and allowing something to come through them that is creative, leaning into that edge, operating with certainty in times of uncertainty in the unknown. So there's like something that it could be a vision or a purpose or a sense of safety when it's not safe, that exploration, that excitement, that's beautiful. And we can find that in sales calls. We can find that in conversations, that if we lead them in that way. And I think what is important for people to know, regardless of your script, I'm not saying, if you're working for a sales company, don't use a script and ever, but it's these moments of connection. Even when I'll be at an event and you'll ask somebody like, hey, what do you do? And you can tell it's like stimulus response. Here's where I give you my elevator thing. Right. As opposed to, I love your response. What if people says, what do you do? And you were like, about what? you know, these moments, and it's these magical moments that create true influence. And yeah, nobody does it better than you, my friend.
I appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
And it's an evolving thing, and hopefully it will never end.
Yeah, you've been such a big influence on my life. Is there anything that I didn't ask you? First of all, I want to be respectful of your time. Anything I didn't ask you that I should have asked you about anything, influence, sales, people, like anything there?
Um, I don't know if you should or shouldn't have asked, but this is coming up for me as a question for the listener and the viewer. Is just to ask yourself, what would it look like if this particular video or audio, if this was the last thing you consumed for the next 7 days?
Hmm.
And if you stopped consuming information and began just living your freaking life, stop trying to learn more so you can get ahead, chill out, take a cooking class, go take a tango lesson, go train jujitsu, spend more time with your kids, stop watching TV, stop consuming, and feel. And if you can make it through the jitters of like, I need a screen in front of me, if you can make it through that, you'll find some deep, deep, powerful sources of energy. You'll get reconnected to your mission and purpose on this planet. You get reconnected to your role as an infinite being, having a human experience. You will fall in love with your own imperfections, realizing that these are just unique aspects of your being. You'll stop judging yourself as much. You'll actually start loving yourself more. And from that feeling of love, because you're living in the real world now, you're going to start radiating that towards others. You're going to become more charismatic, more naturally magnetic. Everybody's going to want to come close to you because they're attracted not to you, they're attracted to the way they feel because they're seeing their light reflected in your authentic self-expression. And that is the natural, inevitable byproduct of turning off the outside influences for just a little while so that you can feel yourself, feel your capacity.
Wow, that's beautiful. I'm going to listen to this many times. That's man, I need to hear that. Beautiful, my friend. I still have your Prime Light meditation. Where can folks find you, your stuff? So when they do get back from non-consuming, if
That's
they
right.
want more of this juiciness, where could they possibly find it?
Fastest, easiest, most accessible way. I'm pretty active on Facebook and Instagram still, at Jesse Elder Live on Instagram or just Jesse Elder on Facebook. I do have a website that is undergoing an overhaul, jesseelder.com, and we're actually going to be creating a whole library of completely free resources. I'm going to take many of my best programs and we're going to de-label them. We're going to de-price them, take the price tag off and just make it open source, make it available. I just want more good stuff out there. I'm only working at this point now with people who are operating at a certain level. So I'm not selling these programs. I remember it was like when I was just getting started, and these are the tools that I wish I would have had. So I made a promise to myself back in 2013 that if I ever figured it out, that I would make stuff available for people that were where I was at. So jesseelder.com is a good place. And if you're ever in Austin, you'll probably see me at Sun Life Organics or Kuya in the sauna or 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu.
That's awesome. I will put that in the show notes, and I'll be in Austin in a few weeks, so I'll get you a juice. We'll go to
man.
There.
Love it.
I've only been to the one in Malibu, so I'll go to Sun Life there.
Yeah,
so
Khalil's become a good friend. He's quite a visionary.
Very cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time, and such a pleasure. Thank you, Jesse.
Always good, Eli. Thank you, man.